What's good? How y'all doing this evening? Welcome back to the Don's Favorite here on Forever I Love Atlanta Sports Podcast. I'm here with my co-host Tyrone. What's good, man?
Hey, I'm good. Just trying to relax. Just relax, trying to breathe.
Man, look, man, we all trying to relax, man. Look, no matter what happened, man, we gotta just try to stay calm, man, and just do things the right way as always. So, all right, but we have a special guest here with us. Jeanna Kelley. Last time I talked to her, she was Thomas. Now she Kelly. I don't know. Last name is changing. I don't know every year, so I don't know. But how you doing, Jeanna?
I'm doing great. My husband and I got married last May 5th. We got married in our backyard because the pandemic, we had to cancel our wedding in Boston. So, yeah. So that's where the Kelly came from.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Hey, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You know, but thank you for coming back on. Talk some Falcons football. I know it's been a mess these past few months in Falcon social media. Everybody think they have the answers, and it's been a whirlwind. So.
It sure has. And people have very, very strong opinions. And we know very little about what to expect from Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith in this draft, which I think makes it a little bit more fun and exciting, but it makes all the discourse more exhausting. So I'm looking forward to it being done.
Exactly. Well, thank you for coming on this evening.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Right. If you're new to the channel, y'all already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, check this content out with Atlanta Sports Fanatics, and hit us up in the comment section. As always, come holler at your hometown sports podcast. So let's go ahead and start this journey back when the announcement came where we hired Terry Fontenot from Saints. What was your first initial reaction to that?
Well, just knowing what I know about his background with the Saints and knowing how he worked his way up through that organization, I think that it's a testament to his intelligence, to his love for the game. I know that some Falcons fans were apprehensive about the fact that he's coming from a team that we all hate so much, and I get that. But in the NFL, these guys, I know some people kind of floated the idea that maybe he was actually going to sabotage the Falcons. No, I mean, it's to be a GM for the first time is such a huge step forward in his career. Nobody would mess with that opportunity. And so, yeah, I really love the hire so far. What I'm hearing about his relationship with Arthur Smith, they seem to have really great rapport, really great chemistry. They actually have had similar trajectories through the NFL, just on, in different roles. And so I think it's really interesting. It seems like they're going to be able to work really well together. They both seem like super smart guys. I'm really, really excited to see what they do.
All right. I remember that when the news came out because I kind of narrowed it down to him, who was Brad Holmes, one candidate, and then we also, I think John Dorsey was another guy that they was looking at as well. They didn't. We ended up getting Terry Fontenot. And some people ask me, I get DMs and stuff from people and ask me, "Oh, what's this Terry Fontenot guy?" I'm like, "Well, he's from New Orleans." And one guy said, "Oh, I don't want anything to do with the Saints." I'm like, "So you don't want anything to do with the team that's pretty much been NFC South champions for 4 years straight?"
Yeah. And
I
also
don't get
somehow they managed to work some kind of crazy voodoo with the salary cap every year. Like, you don't want somebody with those kind of skills in your front office.
Yeah.
I do, actually. So, yeah, I think that he's going to be really good. I'm excited about it.
I am.
Every year the Saints, everybody's just like the Saints don't have no room for salary. And every year they just find a way to sign somebody new. They extend somebody. And you're like, where'd you get the money from?
Every single time they wiggle out of it.
And that's the thing, just looking at how you manipulated the cap and signing players, and you can kind of see a glimpse of that this offseason with us. We started from owing people money, and now, we're in the positive, barely in the positive, but we still sign some good, serviceable players that can come on this team and start,
Yeah. I think that they've made really smart moves this offseason. And just, with the cap going down across the NFL because of revenues falling last year due to the COVID pandemic, I think that they did a really good job of filling needs with serviceable players who are not very expensive. I think that it was really smart to go ahead and restructure Matt Ryan. I know people have very strong and differing opinions about Matt Ryan, but Matt Ryan has been a very consistent, very good quarterback. And I think at his age, he's probably got, another 4 to 5 good years in him. He's locked in with Atlanta for at least one more year. They can probably wiggle out after that, maybe 2 years. And so, I understand why people are antsy considering where the Falcons are picking this year and the strength of the top of this quarterback class in 2021. But I just think that they've made really smart offseason decisions, offseason moves to get under the cap. And I think that they've put themselves in a great position to be able to go several different directions at number 4 and really not make a mistake. I think that they've got a lot of options available to them.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad that you emphasize that Ryan can have 4 or 5 years left. Some people think that the time is up, and some people think that, well, he probably got a year or two. And I'm like, well, if you get him a line, offensive line, and get somebody there that can, make, intelligent plays, then Matt Ryan can probably play 5 years or more. You see it across the league now.
You give him an adequate defense, which he's barely had in his career. He's only had that a couple of times, really. You give him sufficient protection, which has been another consistent weakness for this team. And you give him a run, give him some kind of a ground game, which is one area where I'm really excited to see what Arthur Smith can do with this team. But if you can do those things, I think Matt Ryan can be back at like his 2016 caliber of play. I think that he always has that potential. It's just they've got to put the pieces around him so that he can succeed. And that's something that this team has failed at pretty consistently.
More emphasis on the defense. Because, like I said, we have yet to have a top 10 defense. Everybody keep talking about, well, 2017 was a top 10 defense. That was not a top 10 defense. A top 10 defense is not finna give up that many yards on the ground. A top 10 defense is not going to be negative in turnover margin. Like, no, that's not a top 10 defense.
Yeah, agree. And, they've got a bunch of holes to fill over there, but I think that they've done a good job with that so far in free agency too. Like being able to at least get a couple of starting caliber safeties for a reasonable price in free agency is huge. And then again, it opens up stuff for them later in the draft to build depth at that position. So yeah, it's the first year in a long time that I really have no idea what the Falcons are going to do, and it's just exhilarating. It's so unusual.
Do you like that, Terry and Arthur are very quiet? You only get maybe some interviews, like you get some interviews on the Falcons channel, but you don't get a lot outside of just that stuff. So is that you find it as a good thing? Because, Dan Quinn was a very more active and the bench ride was more active. So do you like that they're more quiet and secretive? Do you think they'll come out of that shell?
So I really, really think that they will, and here's why. Everything with media has been so disrupted. I haven't been up to Flowery Branch for, since the end of the 2019 season because of COVID. And so nobody's really been in the building to start to develop a relationship with Terry Fontenot or Arthur Smith yet. And I think that once we're all able to be back in the building, we're able to build those relationships. I think that those guys will come out of their shell and talk to people more. Right now, I don't think that they know anybody but the actual AtlantaFalcons.com people. So that makes it a little bit harder for them to, share information and give interviews and stuff. But I think that will change as we're able to get back in the building.
Okay. I agree. So now we talked a little bit about Arthur Smith and his play style, his play call, and looking at what we saw the past couple of years, what he did in Tennessee with Derrick Henry. Not only just Derrick Henry, you look at guys like Ryan Tannehill, young A.J. Brown. What's your thoughts on what he can do, what he can bring to a team this offense is already established? You have a 14-year vet, Matt Ryan, a 10-year vet, Julio Jones. You have Hayden Hurst, who's going into his 5th year, Calvin Ridley going into his 5th year. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm really excited. And, I can't say that like Mike Davis is the same caliber of player as Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is just a battering ram. I mean, he is almost impossible to stop. But I think that Arthur Smith showed an ability to draft up run plays that will work. And so it's just a matter of making sure they have the offensive line ready to go. Sometimes there's a little bit of a learning curve, especially with the offensive line, if you're rotating in new people anywhere on the line, building up the chemistry in a new system. So things might be a little bit rocky early in the season, but I think we'll see them start to hit their stride. But yeah, just seeing what he did. And I think Tannehill's a really good example because Tannehill, when he was with other teams, I was like, he's okay. Like pretty average, maybe a little bit above average. And he has played really, really well in Arthur Smith's offense. So I think that demonstrates that Smith just has a really solid offensive mind. And yeah, I mean, moving away from Dirk Cutter, I could not be more excited to see what this offense can do this year.
Thank you. I'm glad you
it's
said
going to be
that.
an upgrade no matter what.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah. We've been talking about that. I don't even want to get onto that, man, because I'll be talking about that for a good minute. But what I will say is I saw a top 10 list, quarterbacks going into 2021. Matt Ryan was down on it. This has not been put out by NFL.com. It's not been put out. It's been put out by a fan, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Who, quote unquote, let me stop. It's been put out by a fan. And he had Ryan Tannehill. And I asked him about, okay, why do you have Ryan Tannehill over Matt Ryan?
Yeah, I think with that, I don't know how people are saying that their offense is still going to be the same. I've seen a lot of people saying that Tennessee's offense will be the same, and I said I don't think it'll be the same type of high power that they had because of this. You don't have Arthur Smith anymore. You don't have that mindset. So whoever replaces him has to come in with that same type of attitude. I mean, their O-line is set. They had the same O-line for so many years. Their core, they have a core offensive set, but the thing is, they have to learn a whole new playbook. There's not going to be a guy that's going to come in there and just know the same stuff that Arthur Smith did.
Well, and I think a really good example of what you're saying is if you look at the difference between the 2016 season under Shanahan, and it took the Falcons a year in 2015 to really get up to speed in Shanahan's system. And then they were great in 2016. And then Sark came in, and then it was, just a whole huge adjustment. You're never, even though they were technically running the same scheme that Shanahan ran in Atlanta, it's very different when you don't have that person calling the plays. And so I think that's really where Tennessee is going to see a difference.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking because it's so many lists and stuff that you see coming out. These are early predictions. They had like them with it's 17. I think they were like 9-6. Some people had them at like 11-6. It's like random stuff, and I'm just like that. I don't think they're going to be the same team. I understand they still have Derrick Henry. They lost Jonnu to the Patriots, so they don't have the same tight end core. They lost a lot of players that you would think are like, okay, you would want them to be on that same team, especially a new coordinator coming in. I understand Mike Vrabel is still the head coach, but it's still a different type of offense.
Yeah, and Vrabel's a defensive guy, and so that consistency is not really going to carry over to the offense. They still do have plenty of talent, and I just think that it's going to be very different without Smith calling the plays.
I agree. But go ahead, Tyrone.
Getting back to the Falcons, so we restructured Matt, restructured Jake. We restructured Dante Fowler. Really, we restructured a lot of guys. We ended up signing a couple of guys. What do you think about all the signings we had? Of course, you said Mike Davis, Eric Harris, a lot of the defensive guys we signed. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I actually really like the signings. It was so funny. The other day I was reading something on the Falcoholics that kind of broke down the whole offseason. I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. But yeah, no, I think that they've made really smart moves to fill needs in a cost-effective way, which is not easy to do, especially in NFL free agency. I think that it was a little bit of a different year this year because the cap was an issue for everybody with as low as it ended up being for 2021. And so I think that pushed players to look for one-term deals, and they're not concerned about maxing out a 1-year deal. They're concerned about just playing somewhere, getting paid, and putting enough good film on tape to get a big deal in free agency next year. So I think that probably worked in their favor a little bit. But I really like the Mike Davis signing. When Christian McCaffrey was hurt last year, I put Davis in my DFS lineup a few times, and he was really like quietly very, very good. Filling in for McCaffrey. I'm spacing on the former Lions safety, his name.
Duron Harmon.
Yeah, Duron Harmon. Yeah, he's actually pretty consistent and pretty good. Like, I think that he is going to be a really solid player. Eric Harris also. Totally agree. I was concerned about the safety position because all of a sudden they literally had none. And so just being able to lock up a couple of guys is, I think, a really big step toward freeing them up to do what they want to do in the draft.
Yeah, I was concerned about that safety spot too, because everybody keep talking about what we really need, and I'm like, we have no safeties. Literally going back a month, like I say, not a month, but like 5-6 weeks ago, we had no safeties at all.
None. No.
And lack of, like, we know we have Marlon Davis, and we know we have John Kaminsky, our pass rushers, and then you got Dante Fowler. Those pretty much our pass rushers. But at the same time, you need more pass rushers. And I feel like a guy like Kaminsky and Davidson would thrive with DP's defense. But at the same time, Fowler's on a 1-year deal. So when Fowler leaves next year, or they may end up cutting him out to June 1st, we don't know what they're going to do with him. But you still need somebody behind a guy like Fowler just in case. And then on top of that, he played injured for most of the year too.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like we have this conversation around the Falcons every single year going into the draft. Like, are they finally going to get some kind of pass rusher who can actually get pressure on opposing quarterbacks? I think that is probably the most evergreen question that's been facing this team since John Abraham left, really. And so there are some guys available later in the draft, I guess, who could be good, guys to fill in there. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do.
Yeah. Choo was good, man. Everybody who watching live, appreciate y'all joining in. If y'all have any questions, please ask them. Who's lining up across on AJ Terrell? If we don't draft a guy like Patrick Surtain or who's the other guy from Virginia Tech, I feel like Fabian should be that second cornerback. I feel like he can do it. I like what I saw, out of him, the tape I saw. So I think he'd be a good solid CB2 in on our roster.
Yeah, I forgot about Moreau, actually, because they really did add a lot of players in free agency. I totally agree with that. I think that he's an underrated corner, and I think that is maybe a backup plan. They may plan to go for, because there are some really talented corners that are going to be available in the first round. So maybe that is their plan, but I could see them letting Moreau take over as the starter there and, getting depth later in the draft to fill out the rest of the depth chart.
Okay. So I want to ask you this question. Have you ever played like poker or spades, anything like that?
Yeah.
All right. Does it feel like the Falcons right now are really playing cards with this fourth pick? I feel like they really not showing anybody their hand or who they're going to draft, what they're going to end up doing.
I think that you're completely right. I think that they have done a really good job with that this year. It's been, there have been some rumors floating around, and I think a lot of that is just smoke. I think that they've done a good job of blowing smoke out there and keeping their plans under wraps. So one of the things that's going to be interesting is seeing if anybody wants to trade up to 4 to take one of the quarterbacks. And I would, if I were Terry Fontenot, I would say, you got to give me more than the Niners, or give me the same amount the Niners gave to go up to 3. I would not part with that pick if I weren't going to get a haul that could completely change the future of the franchise. But yeah, so I think it's just going to be super interesting. Like I said, I have no idea what they're going to do. They have done a really good job of keeping it under wraps, and it's been really fun.
And I agree with you on that aspect. I've been saying if we trade with a team like Denver won't in. New England, we heard some news about New England, but it's not even just quarterbacks. I've been trying to tell people that. Teams like I just got a notification the Giants are trying to trade. The Giants, a lot of people saying that the Giants they won't guy picks.
Yeah. And
literally,
I don't blame them. I think Pitts is amazing. And yeah, I mean, and then there are also cornerbacks. There, like I said, there are a handful of guys that are going to be available there at the top of the draft who are just, really kind of game-changing cornerbacks. And so I could see a team like, Dallas maybe even being willing to move up to get Surtain Jr. So it's there are so many moving parts. I think that this is probably part of the reason I'm so tired.
Who you telling? I've been tired. Like it's just a lot. Just watching film on players, and I'm getting so many like tags and DMs from people. I'm like, look, I don't have time. I'm tired of talking about this fourth overall pick. But I talk about it on my show, and I just leave it at that. Sometimes I make time in on social media. I may throw out some funny memes to get people a laugh here and there, but other than that. I'm not going to get into a full-blown argument or conversation on social media because everybody right now, like we said earlier, people have lost their doggone minds.
I think that there are two people still arguing in my mentions about moving Caleb McGarry to guard. 2 days ago, I tapped out of that conversation 2 days ago, and I was like, "Y'all just have at it. I'm not going to be involved in this."
What's the point of? What would be the point of moving Caleb? We have a fourth pick. Like I keep saying this. We have the fourth pick. You have Penny sitting right there.
Exactly.
20-year-old, just star.
20 years old, extremely versatile. Has been training on both sides, so you can really plug him in wherever. And McGarry I think people don't understand everything is different. The footwork, the hand placement, everything is different on the interior line compared to the tackle position. And so it's not a situation where you're just like, oh, it's an offensive lineman, throw him in anywhere. Like put a tackle in.
That's the thing. They never played football, let alone played on the offensive line. Like, I know what you're talking about because I've been seeing people say that a lot. And I'm like, why would you do this? This man already struggling at tackle. And it takes longer for tackles to develop than guards. So leave him there at tackle. You already hired a head coach who knows offensive line. I'm pretty sure he can help Caleb McGarry. He can help Matt Hennessy. They will be fine. You get you somebody that's going to play left guard. If we stay at 4, you draft it well. If you want to trade that back, guess what? You got AVT, Elijah Vera Tucker, who I feel like can play left guard. You keep him. You plug him in. Your line is complete for another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I think really, that's another guy that's really slipping under radars at guard. Ben Cleveland from Georgia. I'm a Georgia guy.
Oh yeah.
He's just slipping. Nobody's talking about him at interior, and I'm like, he's number 3, I think, on PFF. But he's not going in the first round. If we say we do take Pitts. I know people want us to go defense. I've seen people say, "Oh, defense this draft." I've seen people say, "If you go offense, go in the later rounds." If anything, if Ben Cleveland is sitting there at 35 and we really want a guard, you go get Ben Cleveland.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, Ben Cleveland's just sitting there. I'm a Georgia fan at heart. I've been a Georgia fan my whole life. I've watched Ben Cleveland all 3. I think he's been there 3 or 4 years. He's a man amongst children. Like look what he did at Notre Dame. Every time you see, every time you watch Ben Cleveland play, you're just like, oh, that's a man. And it's funny that people are not talking about him. It's a lot of people. I want your opinion on these guys that you see all these top stars like Justin Fields. These guys that are under them. Why do you think they don't get the same amount of attention, or is it just because of just their name? Is it really just name wise?
I think people have such an odd perspective on the offensive line. Like it's so fundamentally crucial to a team's offensive success. And there are so many things that go into it. Like, they've got to have chemistry. You've got to be able to anticipate what the guy next to you is doing. Everybody's got to be on top of their assignments, all this stuff. You've got to have a center who can call out those assignments and keep everybody focused and on task. And I mean, so there's a lot that goes into it. My dad was an offensive line coach at the high school level when I was growing up. So I grew up, watching offensive lines practice and, learning all about it. And so I have a different perspective on it because of that. But yeah, I think that people just really underestimate how crucially important a decent offensive line is to a team's offensive success. It doesn't matter if you've got an MVP caliber quarterback and, one of the best receivers in the entire world in Julio Jones and all this other offensive talent stacked around Matt. If they can't give him enough time to throw the ball, if they can't open lanes for the running game, if they can't keep him upright, then they're not going to be good. And so that's why I would definitely rather see them go offensive line and go for an interior lineman earlier in the draft rather than later.
Bingo. Thank you for saying that.
That's what I've been saying.
And also, and here's the thing, and I'm on everybody's mind is still stuck on 2016. Everybody thinking that, okay, well, we should be able to score 30, 40 points a game, and we don't do that. It's Matt Ryan's fault. And I'm tired of hearing it. Like, going back to the offensive line that year, was the offensive line great? I want to say yes. But I will say this, and I will give Kyle Shanahan his roses. I don't do that a lot because I really don't like the man at all. But he did do a good job of scheming the line and their flaws by running a lot of bootleg play action and all that. That helps your offensive line. That also helps your quarterback look good too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And I think that Arthur Smith is similar as far as understanding how to put offensive linemen in position to succeed. And so I'm really, really excited about that.
You said it's similar. Well, somebody told me that Arthur Smith is very similar to Dirk Cutter when he calls plays. What do you feel about that statement?
Well, I mean, I think that we all watched Dirk Cutter call plays for the Falcons last year, if that's what you want to call it. And we also have seen Tennessee really thriving offensively with Arthur Smith. And I know, again, like Derrick Henry is a very special player. I do not want to take anything away from him. If somebody offered me $1 million to get run over by him, I would turn down the money. Like, that dude is a bad man. But so I recognize his talent and everything, but I still think that Smith is more adept at putting players in a position to succeed than Dirk Cutter was.
All right. Yeah, I laughed at that when somebody said that, saying, "Oh, well, Arthur Smith, he calls plays similar to Dirk Cutter." I'm like, how?
Their offense is different. The scheme,
the offense is so different.
The schemes are, especially like you were saying, line wise. Look at the guy. I mean, the 2016 team. I would, like you said with Shanahan, we had the same starting five all year. I will say that was on health. Now you look at these other years, we've had O-linemen fall and get hurt, and we just haven't had the same core. I think that really, you look at Arthur Smith, a O-line coach, he's going to tell these guys how to. Matt Hennessy is definitely at center is going to really get it. They say he did 4 years at Temple, so he has that leadership skill. So he's going to get with Arthur Smith, and he's going to teach him and Matt. He has these vets around him. He's his first year starting, but he has a O-line coach. He has a 14-year veteran quarterback, and he has Jake Matthews. We can talk about Jake Matthews another day. We got Jake Matthews sitting there that's an old veteran O-lineman for us, and he's got to know on certain people. You got these guys around. He's going to help Hennessy. He's going to help Caleb. It's going to help a lot of our O-line, but I still think we need another guard.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just what we need.
And I think especially with a center who's going to be starting for the first time, you want to have somebody who's going to be really solid on either side of him. And I feel really good about Lindstrom. I think that he's developed really well, and so I feel solid about him. But yeah, I think so too. I think that having another option at guard so that you've got, two really solid performers on either side of your first year starting center would be really helpful for Hennessy.
Yes. You got, like I say, you got Sewell and Lindstrom and Hennessy right down between the middle of them. Like, your job is easy. Your job is really easy. Like, Matthews and Caleb, they're gonna still be the tackles, but at the same time, Matthews to me, he always struggled at the beginning of the season. By I think week 8, week 9, he's solid for the rest of the year. Caleb, I've seen Caleb, play games, and does not give up any pressures. Now, there are sometimes that he just have bad games. It happens to the best of them. It happens. But I feel like the play calling and the scheme that Smith is going to bring here is going to have McGarry develop better in this scheme than what he was on the Dirk Cutter.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that that's absolutely true. And actually, a couple of people in the Atlanta media have alluded to the fact that they think that the offensive line coaching was poor or like not up to what the standard that it needed to be over the past couple of years. And so I think that especially with a player as young as McGarry going into his third year in the league, I think it's really important to understand that, first of all, right tackle is a really difficult position to play because, left tackle, they're protecting the blind side, but right tackle is where defensive coordinators typically scheme their best rushers to attack because they see it as a point of weakness. And so he's often going up against the league's best edge rushing talent. And if his coaching isn't up to par, then then he's totally unprepared for that. So I really like Arthur Smith's background with the offensive line coaching and his history. And I think that just this new coaching staff should be able to make a difference with his development.
I've said this about Chris Morgan. Chris Morgan was our offensive line coach. And I didn't like the guy. He did not know how to develop the young offensive lineman that we had. Case in point, the guy Wes Schweitzer that we had. All right.
Yep.
Wes Schweitzer, he had that high ceiling that he could have been a good player, but guess what he did? He went to Washington and played way better in Washington. Now, here's the thing. I've been asking people this question too. When Kyle Shanahan left after that Super Bowl and he took everybody on that offensive staff, went to San Francisco, why did he leave Chris Morgan here with us? If he was that good, he would have brought him down to San Francisco. Am I lying? I've been trying to tell people this.
I never even thought about that, but that I think is very, very telling.
Yeah. He did.
What'd you say?
He did. He cleared he cleaned everybody. He cleaned his staff out. I was really more. I was surprised. I will say, I was surprised when we got the news of Arthur Smith. At first, I didn't know who he was. At first, then I was like, "Oh, okay, he's Tennessee." Then when they announced Terry, like the press conference day was like it's sudden. It was all of a sudden because you got the announcement and they had the press conference like the same day. And you were like, oh, and you're like watching it and you're just like, I just like that they sounded more confident. Like they had the aura around them, especially Arthur Smith. When they asked him who's calling plays, he immediately answered, I'm calling plays. And then he brought in is it Regano, I think?
Regano, and then he brought in Ledford from Louisville. And that's the thing too. When he first got hired, we still had everybody here on staff that was behind, when Quinn Morris was the coach. And the first person that was fired was Chris Morgan. I'm like, see, I love it. See, he put emphasis on where it needs, the trenches.
Yeah. He knows. Yep. I think he knows, especially like you watched us. If you watched us and you've watched really all the stuff that we've gone through after the Super Bowl, we haven't had a good O-line. Matt's been sacked almost 40 times in these last 3 years since the Super Bowl.
It's one of the things that wears me out when people talk about Matt Ryan's past his prime and he's washed and he's done and they should draft his replacement and cut him and all this stuff. Like he spends a lot of time on the ground because of that line.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question. It's not Falcons, but you saw since then they got their new uniforms. I don't know if you saw the picture of Joe Burrow's knee.
Yes, I did.
So people are talking about they want Jamar Chase. That picture of his knee just shows me. I think they if we don't take Sewell, do you think they want to move up and take Sewell? If they think we take Sewell, or what do you think happens?
I think that it's possible that they could want to move up. I have to say, like, I low-key love the idea of Jamar Chase to the Bengals. And in our SB Nation mock draft that we did with all of our team sites, that's where he went. He just had such an incredible season with Burrow their last year at LSU. But yeah, I mean, they desperately need offensive line help. And so I could definitely see them being willing to move up to protect that investment. I mean, to have the first overall pick and then lose him for a big chunk of the season because your offensive line can't protect him. Yeah, that's rough. And so I really think that they could be in the market to move up. That's the other thing that's so interesting about this draft cycle is that so many teams have so many urgent needs, and it's like there are so many possibilities for trades and everything.
Yeah. When do you think all the action will start, though? Because we've gotten one big trade, in San Francisco. When do you think all this? We were saying, I think was it last week we said we thought the Falcons were going to trade the pick, or this week.
It's been. Here's the thing. It's so many. I feel like we're getting so many offers from so many teams. Here's the thing. The draft doesn't start as number one. The draft now starts at number 4. We know what Jacksonville is going to do. We know what the Jets are going to do. And we definitely know what San Francisco is going to do because they done pretty much savage their whole next few years to get that 3rd overall pick from Miami. All right?
Yeah.
So right now, people don't know what the Falcons are going to do. They don't know if we're going to draft quarterback. They don't know if we're going to draft tight end. They don't know if we're going to draft Penny Sewell. They don't know. Like, here's the thing. Do we want to trade out of this pick? I'm pretty sure they do. Because if you look at the cap, all right, and if you draft anybody in this top 5, guess what? You have to pay them a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. So, that's very true. And with more draft capital, they could add more cheap talent on rookie deals. And that is how you build a roster. Like once you get to this point where you're so cap strapped, that it makes a lot more sense to build as much as you can through the draft. So if they can trade back and collect more draft capital, I'm completely in favor of that. But it is, like I said, one of the fun things about this is that they could go in a million different directions. There are still great players that would be available and fill needs because they have a lot of needs toward the back of the first round. So I think that that's an option they should definitely be keeping open. And I think that they should ask for like a king's ransom to be even consider giving up that pick.
And that's the thing. You hit the nail on the head. We need depth. And not only that, you sign these rookies to pretty much minimum deals. Not only that, but here's the thing: when you do that, if we stick at 4, we already have 9 picks. All right. So say for instance, we just stay where we at. We don't do any trade backs or trade downs. At most, you have 9. The probability of all 9 of those guys making a team, all 9 are not going to make it. You may have 6 or 7 of those guys make the squad. A couple of those guys may make practice squad, or we may end up cutting. All right, it happens. Now, say for instance, you get more draft capital, and we go from 9 to 12, where you have a more probability of some of those players making the squad and making the depth chart. And your depth is already fixed just by year 1 of your new regime coming in.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very appealing option for that reason.
So you kind of pretty much said that what we're going to end up doing on next Thursday night at 4. What do you think? What you think we're going to draft Sewell? Do you think Kyle Pitts? You think they're going to draft Fields or Lance? Or do you think we're going to end up trading back?
So we talked before the broadcast started about the fact that I'm an Ohio State fan. I would love to have Fields. I just love him as a player. I think he's absolutely spectacular. I think that the Niners are going to take him. So I think that's off the table. I think that Lance is a really interesting prospect, mainly because of his age. He's only 20. He is coming out of a smaller program. I think he's a guy who could really benefit from having a couple of years to sit and learn behind a player like Matt Ryan. So it's a pick that I wouldn't hate it for. I don't think that they're going to do that. I don't think that they're going to go for a quarterback. Now, I think that they might look for somebody later in the draft, and I'm totally fine with that too. There's a kid out of Wake. His name escapes me right now, but he, I think, is a guy who could also benefit from sitting and learning behind Matt Ryan, and he's got the size and like great pocket awareness and stuff. So I would love for them to target a quarterback later in the draft. I think that they're going to take Pitts. I think that he is such a dominant offensive weapon. He is such a unique player. He's not just a tight end. I mean, the kid is a beast. And so I would like to see them take Pitts because I think that would just be fun to watch. So that's what I hope that they do. That's what I think that they're going to do. But that's mainly because I don't like the trade down scenarios are endless pretty much. And so I don't even know how to like sort through those in my head. So right now I'm going to say, I think that they're taking Pitts. That's what I want them to do too. For right now, I reserve the right to change that over the next week because a lot of stuff is happening. But yeah, that's where I am right now with it.
So, so if you think, so let's say the Broncos, we go down to 9. Do you think we take Surtain and with that 9th pick?
Yes, I think that if he's still there, yes, I think that they would, and I think that would be a fantastic get too, because then you have a starting corner on the other side, and then you've got Moreau able to like come in as a rotational player and that sort of thing. So yeah, I would absolutely love that. That's the thing. Like this draft, there are a bunch of just really talented players in here, and it's nice that the Falcons are in the position that they're in because I think that they could go like as long as they don't draft a kicker at number 4, I'm probably not going to be mad about whatever they do. You draft a punter at number 4 and I'm storming Flowery Branch. But yeah, anything else, I think that I could probably find a way to be okay with it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So and I mentioned this about Pitts. Just the financial and the future, because everybody talking about so you need to secure the future to get Justin Fields. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. We know Matt Ryan can play, well over 4 years from now. Now the situation with Julio is kind of different from that. You see that he's been injured a lot. All right. And then we drafted Calvin Ridley, and normally when you draft a receiver that high, like you did, that's pretty much supposed to replace Julio. Is Kevin really another Julio? No, he's not. And I'm not. No, and I hope people don't sit here and say, "Well, I disagree." Come on now, let's be real with ourselves. Julio and Calvin Ridley are 2 different receivers, and Calvin is nowhere near the talent level that Julio is. And then
very few humans are. Very few humans
exactly.
Are. Yeah.
And then you have Hayden Hurst. And like Hayden Hurst is on his last year rookie deal. And Calvin Ridley, I think this is his last year on his rookie deal too? Because both of them were drafted at the same time. Yeah.
Yes.
So you're not going to be able to pay both of those guys. So, and then you looking at your receiver that's been here since 2011, how long is he going to last? So you drafting Pitts, who we saw at Florida can be a dominant player in this league. You draft him, guess what? You pretty much secure the future at your receiver tight end spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I deal, and he's a rookie, so you got 5 years to what's a guy like Pitts? Matt Ryan has a weapon.
Yes, absolutely. And I also just think back to how effective Matt Ryan was with a tight end like Tony Gonzalez. And I think Kyle Pitts is like more dynamic and actually a better blocker than Tony Gonzalez. And so I love the idea of giving him a weapon like that. I just think that it would be a really solid move.
Mm-hmm. I've heard some people. I've watched Kyle Pitts like at Georgia. I've seen him destroy Georgia. I've seen him destroy the SEC. So I've seen, I've heard people like, oh, he can't block, or he's big, but he has great hands. But if we're gonna put him at tight end, you got to put him at wide receiver in the NFL because he can't chip block. But you watch his film. I mean, he wasn't really used in that manner. I mean, he's big. I mean, if you look at him, he's like 6'4", 6'5", like 220, some very crazy dynamic that you would just be like, oh, he should play basketball. Something where he's built almost like LeBron. You're just like, that's a football player. He's huge. So
yeah,
I love that you can plug him in anywhere. For Matt, like you said, and I've heard people say, he's the next generational talent out of this draft because there's not going to be a lot of people that can stop him. And I would love to have him in Atlanta.
Yeah, I would too. And I know that a lot of people have him second on their draft boards behind Trevor Lawrence, which I think Trevor Lawrence deserves to be in that top spot. And I think that there's been no question this whole time that he's going to land in Jacksonville. But yet I think that things are very up in the air for Pitts just because so many teams do need a quarterback. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens there. But I think that he could be a great addition.
So if we go to we're in the draft. So we, like I said, we had that 4th pick. You said Pitts. What do you go with that? So we've been saying nobody really knows what you go after that. So what do you think? 2nd round? Do you think we go O-line 2nd round?
Or I think interior lineman 2nd round. And I think 3rd round, you go for a developmental quarterback, somebody who can, because they don't have any backups. So you have to have, I don't want to wait until, round 6, round 7 to grab some guy and just have him on the roster. Like Matt Ryan's been very, very healthy over his career. I don't even like to talk about it because I don't want to jinx it. But anything can happen. And so they've got to have somebody who's able to actually step in and fill in if something does happen. And so, yeah, I think round 3, you look at a developmental quarterback.
Okay. Well, I'm going to disagree with that. I agree with you, but I disagree. We can get a quarterback, probably, I say sweet spot 4th to 5th round. But 3rd round, we need to get a one-tick nose tackle guy to put right next to Grady Jarrett. All right? That you can – that's the problem with our line. And no disrespect to Tyler Davidson, but he's so light. And we need a bigger guy. I like this guy named Tyler Shevin from LSU. Big guy. I think he's 350-something pounds, 6'4". Like, you need somebody like that. Remember when we had Jordan Babineau and we had Rashid Hageman? That defensive line was playing good. Vic Beasley was getting sacks. Grady Jarrett was getting to the quarterback getting sacks. And then you had other players coming in getting sacks as well. Claiborne and all those guys. Courtney Upshaw, that's another guy too.
Oh yeah! So, oh my gosh! We've had so many pass rushers come through. So many defensive linemen, yeah. And
but they wouldn't get no good sack, but they were serviceable enough to get like 3 or 4 sacks a season. But that's what we had. We had a guy like Jordan Babineau. We had a guy like Rashid Hageman. When we start getting lighter on the line, you start seeing the production going down because you don't have that bigger guy that does not show up on stat sheets, by the way. But he's there to eat up blocks so Grady Jarrett can go one-on-one. Grady Jarrett going one-on-one with any guard in this league. He's gonna get penetration. He's gonna get in the backfield and get in the sack.
Absolutely.
I think I will say about development, because I'm not that far out of high school, but coming out of high school and college, your DNs are 6'4" basketball players that are just fast. And your D tackles are 240 fast guys that like you can just get them and you just get them out the line. So it's kind of sort of turning to that now where you want it's like a smaller, you can have small D small D tackles, but you want bigger guys that just eat up blocks. Like when you get that big guy, when you have that big guy on the line, it's a double team every time. There's never like and then either that edge guy has that tackle by himself, or you got that other D tackle just one-on-one, and it's always causes a mishap. Especially I play center, so playing center, you can't guard both. Somebody they got one technique on 3, but the one technique is 300 pounds, so you got to come in this way, but the 3 techniques looping it. So it's a problem where it's gotten where D tackles aren't big anymore, where they just want speed now. Everything is now. Dan Quinn was like, "We're gonna be fast. We're gonna be fast." And
you still need that bigger. You still need that. Look, you still need that bigger guy. Look, you can be fast all you want to, but guess what? You're gonna get tired. All right, you're gonna get tired. You still need that bigger guy that's there. Look at Tampa Bay defensive line. Enough said. I ain't even gotta tell you. If you look at guys like Vita Vale and Ndamukong Suh, all right, how you think Shaq Barrett getting all those sacks like that? Jordan Pierre-Paul got what? No, I ain't trying to talk about the man, but he has 7 fingers and still getting production because of those guys in the middle.
It's crazy. I wanted Vita Vale so bad for the Falcons. when he was in the draft.
I did too.
That was my pick. That was my pick, and I was like, "Oh, he's coming to Atlanta," because I thought he was going to drop far enough. I'm like, "He's coming to Atlanta. He's coming to Atlanta." As soon as Tampa took him, I said no, because I just knew he was going to be. He was special in college.
He was
huge.
I just did not want him to go anywhere in this division, and of course he did.
Yeah, we always end up getting screwed, getting the short stick. But like, I feel like we do need to get a development quarterback. I like this guy named Brady White from Memphis. He's a good quarterback, and I think the type of skill set that he has is very similar to Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill, and Russell Wilson. Like I see a lot for some reason. I see a lot of Russell Wilson in him, but I can tell that he can be a sponge. He can soak up a lot of information under Arthur Smith, under Matt Ryan, and he can be a solid like backup in this league for us.
And yeah, I mean, I think that right now that's really all they need. I know that looking, down the pipe at future quarterback draft classes, this one is a historically, or it at least looks on paper like a historically strong one. I think that we heard the same thing about Carson Wentz and Jared Goff, and we all know how that has gone. So we have to see how it plays out. But yeah, I mean, I have no trouble getting a quarterback on day 3 to be Matt Ryan's backup for a couple of years. And even if he doesn't end up being the heir apparent to Matt Ryan to take over as the starter in the future, do what the Patriots did with Garoppolo. I've been calling for this for years. Get a later round guy, develop him. And if he develops well and you don't want to keep him as your starter, trade him and get something back for him. Get some kind of a return on that investment. And so yeah, I mean, I think with Matt Ryan having at least probably 2 more years in Atlanta, they have time to figure out exactly what they want to do there.
Yeah, I don't think Matt Ryan's going anywhere no time soon. How the way they've just restructured this man contract. And I told people, don't be shocked at the end of this year, end of the season, that they give him an extension. Because that right there is going to open up more money for next year. And I know people say, well, the cap going up. Yeah, the cap's still going up, but you still need more. You still got to think about other players. There's money that's going to increase. Grady Jarrett contract is going to increase. Deion Jones contract is going to increase. You got a guy like, we don't know if we want to sign Kevin Ridley to an extension. All that stuff got to come into play as well. And then who else? Oh yeah, AJ Terrell. I know he's his second year, but you got to think about all those things. And some of these 1-year guys that we just signed, we may end up wanting to keep them here for a couple more years.
Yeah, absolutely. And like looking at Grady, that's actually, I would like to see them sign him to a long-term extension as soon as possible. 1, to free up some cap money this year, because they need to sign all their draft picks and all that stuff. But 2, like just lock him up forever. I want him to retire in Atlanta. I think I said on the Falcoholic podcast a couple of weeks ago, like sign him to a 100-year deal. I don't care, but lock that man up. Make sure he does not leave the city.
Exactly.
And I think, like we were going to talking about developmental. If we take Kyle Pitts at 4, I want Kyle Trask somewhere down the line. I want Kyle Trask. That's been my guy. Kyle Trask was behind, who was for this? He's behind Felipe. So, I mean, he's been a guy that's been a bench guy. He's always learning. Look, he came in last year, took Felipe's spot, played great versus Georgia. Then he got to this year and was a Heisman candidate for most of the year. And, they lost to Oklahoma. But for most of the year, he was top 5 in Heisman stuff. And for him to drop so bad, which was weird when I was reading like quarterback 5, and they had Trey Lance and Zach Wilson, I'm just like, you have a guy coming out the SEC. People say SEC quarterbacks aren't good in the NFL, but you had a guy coming out that he was good. You got to think, Kyle Pitts, you have him so high, he has to be good. You have to have a quarterback
somebody throwing the ball to Kyle Pitts.
Somebody throwing the ball to him. That's what I'm saying. So it's not a way that you can say it's not. I feel like he's going to be a good developmental. He might not be the heir. It'd be cool to have, Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts when they both develop to be on the same team again. But I don't think that's the right thing.
All right. We got one more question, and then we're going to end the chat. End the live. All right. So here's the thing. What do you think? Enough of the draft talk. What do you think this new coaching staff and this new GM, this new regime in 2021 is going to do with this squad. I'm just going to be honest with you. I feel like we're going to be better than we were last year, but what's your ceiling for this team?
Yeah, I think that they'll be better than they were last year. And if you think back to when Mike Smith came in, I think that now they finished like 9-7, Matt Ryan's first year, which was a big improvement over the previous year. Dan Quinn came in, they were 500 after winning 4 games the previous year. And I think that we can probably expect a similar level of improvement. With the 17-game season, I could see them going, this math is just going to make me mad. 9-8. I have to rethink how I factor all of those. Yeah, I used to be able to just, 9-7, like 8-8, the records. Yeah. So 9-8. I think I could see them winning 9 games.
All right. Well, that's a good prediction. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. Once again, let everybody know where they can find you.
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at Jeanna Thomas. It's Jeanna Thomas, and I'm usually yelling about stuff or.
Don't we? Hey, we all yelling.
Yelling about stuff or posting pictures of my dog. So win-win. And thank you so much for having me, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
All right, go Blue.
Bye-bye.
What
are y'all going through in the comments?
Chill. Relax. Look, timeout flag on the plate. Listen, all right. Everybody who watched this show live, appreciate y'all watching it live. If you're watching this at a later time, hit us up in the comment section. Let us know what you think about the show. But yeah, let's cut back on the profanity, you guys. We're not finna do that. All right, not on here. All right, not on here. But hey, everybody appreciate that. Appreciate y'all coming in. If you're new to the channel, y'all already know what to do. Yeah, Zora, appreciate you, man. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this content out of Atlanta Sports Fanatics, and hit us up in the comment section. As always, come holler at your hometown sports podcast. This is The Dunn with another episode of The Dunn's Favorite on Forever I Love Atlanta Sports Podcast. Here with my co-host, Tyrone.
Kings Realm tonight, y'all. Kings Realm, game starts, I think, at 7:38, so we probably be on around 10. We got another show today, y'all.
We got another one today. Don't let the cat out the bag. They'll find out. We got another Dunn's on Favor at 8:30 tonight. So we pretty much doing a hat trick tonight. Look, this guy that's coming on, he's big in sports media, and that's all I'm gonna say. So stay tuned for that. All right. But hey, y'all, appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great evening. Get y'all something to eat, and I'll see y'all back here at 8:30 sharp. 8:30 sharp. Hey, everybody chill out. But, let's try to respect for one another in the live chat. We don't want to ban anybody. All right. Y'all have a great evening. See y'all at 8:30. Peace.